Hello and welcome back to my second music-y vlog thing. Today I thought we could revisit a piece I wrote quite a while ago that I'd really like to revisit, polish off, and fix some of the issues that's integral to the piece. I wrote it about a year ago, over the span of a couple days, as I had to do a quick turnaround. But what I'd really like to do is make it a fully fledged piece that I want to shove at the front of my portfolio whenever I have a cuter style of game come my way. It's got great bones, I really enjoy the sound and the feel of it, and so I thought it'd be the perfect piece to take a look. When I first put it out there, one of my music heroes, Anthony Romero, gave me some feedback which I thought was absolutely fantastic. There's too much going on, and I feel like a key idiom of writing music comes back to the same principle, which is don't fuck it up. You've got your idea, it's your job as a composer to discover how it should be presented, and a lot of the time we think too much and we do too much.
You know, somebody told me once that you're getting in the way of your own music if you're making it too elaborate just for the sake of it being elaborate. So it's like, oh, you're right. And I wasn't really focused on the flow of the natural material. Whatever material you have, you do let it develop in its own way. I mean, the music is really, really beautiful. And I think it's going to be really nice without any detours or any added dissonance.
And so let's jump into my project from a year ago. Take a look at it and have a little listen, have a little critique, and see how we can improve it, make it better, make it clearer. And also produce it, because I didn't really have a lot of time to produce it last year either. Okay, well that was utterly painful. I've inputted everything into the score. It took pretty much a couple hours to get this in because of the amount of subtle changes in the time signatures, in the feel. Some of these ties just don't work when I switch to MIDI. It's just horrendous. So I basically had to input it all myself. We've got our A section, and then we have this B section here, which is A, B, then A, and then a flourished B. And then it sort of heads into a little transitional section just to get back to the intro. But the main thing that you can hear is there's a lot going on, and some of these parts don't work together, and that's the biggest thing. Like you can see here, I've got this rhythm in the marimba, which doesn't really reference much elsewhere. And so that's really what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on fixing some of this arrangement so that everything works together and doesn't detract from one another. The perfect example is right at the start, okay? So now, I don't know if your ear hears that. Mine does glaringly, and it's this part here. These flutes, they set up a precedent of breathing in through here and fading out into the half beat to here. Whereas here, we're suddenly carrying on, and it sounds obtrusive on the next bar, so done. What I like is it sets up these two little phrases, and then we have this third thing that encapsulates the end. and I'm hearing a chord in my head. So this is usually how a lot of my compositional process goes. So I'm just hearing something in my head, right? And I just have to discover what it is that my brain is telling me should fit in there. I can hear this note on that last marimba beat. That's where I'm hearing it. And so I kind of feel like it has more. Okay, so let's have a listen to how that sounds. This is our nice intro. Almost unheard, but that's good. And I'm not sure if it is that. It could be something as simple as an A major 7. I might mess around on the piano and try and work out, are there any notes here that is it just an A major 7 that I'm hearing in my head? And that's something for me to experiment. So that's roughly what I mean by my little experimentation. So just listening through, I knew when I was listening to it, this bar here has its issues. This is a main part of my piece, is that I'm flicking between this 1 2 3 2 2 3 feel of compound time and mixing it with the simple time of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can see it here. You have this sort of weighted rhythm that leads into notes, and then I'm leading really towards these chords here. But the main issue here is we have this downward pattern, and this is one of the main. You can hear it sort of brings out a new sense. But then all of these other instruments, they sort of clash. They all clash with it because these are doing dotted rhythms, but then this is doing just straight crotchet rhythms. So they're clashing together, and I think it adds a sense of confusion. And you especially hear it there. So it might be that this is a simple fix of that. And then these tie over. Yeah, and this is really what I'm doing. I'm going through my piece. I'm listening to parts that don't work together. But let me do a little bit of editing and we'll jump back and see what sort of things I've worked on. Okay, so I'm back and I'm happy with this. So we have this dialogue between the two voices. We have this upper voice which really just backs up this voice, but the lower voice of the marimba has a dialogue with the voice for some type of plucked bass. I'm using double bass for the time, but it has a lot more of a flow. There's no more clashes. These two notes are actually dotted quavers together, which really does not match. So that's all been cleared up. Let's have a listen just to hear how that's cleared things up rhythmically. Okay, so now we're heading into the second repetition. And you can hear there's just this, I think this bar needs to go. And I might replace it with just this sort of rhythm, just to help back up this melody. Make sure we have this. I don't mind this. This is nice because it does back up the time signatures that were in simple to compound to simple again. I'm going to have a little mess around and see what it is here that's causing these issues. Okay, so here we are in Cubase. Everything's inputted, everything has been recorded, all the automation is done. And it's time to start thinking about production. Now, before I start production, I wanted to share a few things with you so you can hear what it sounds like before and you can understand some of the choices that I'm making. So first, let's just have a quick listen to how it sounds all together. So you can hear it doesn't blend very well together, a lot of these instruments. You can hear the idea is there, but it really doesn't want to blend together. Mostly it's this kalimba. And you can hear it's just very bright. And over the piano, even disregarding the fact that obviously they're not level matched, just the sounds themselves, the kalimba is too dry. It sounds like someone's just recorded it in an anechoic chamber. So as well, the sub bass that I have is very, very heavy. It slams the mix. And so some low pass stuff and EQing needs to be processed in here. So I'm going to do my very standard audio track processing on each of these, clean up some of the sounds a little more so that they really work together. That's the first thing I always do whenever I produce, is I work on the EQs. So let me do some EQ work and I'll jump back to you. Okay, so I've done some EQing. I've also done some compression. And the one thing I don't like about the compressor is that it does an auto gain sort of situation. So as you push this ratio and it pushes the compression, it auto gains your output, and that's really annoying because I wanna be able to see everything. So I'm gonna reset all of these and I'm gonna see where our levels sit for the track, and I'm gonna do the same input output. Okay, so level matching on the input to make it easier for me to mix. So I'm just gonna level match and then I'm gonna call it there for the day. I think I want to give my ears a little break today. Okay, so I'm back, and one of the things that was mentioned to me in the last video is that you didn't really get to see some of the creation. And so I thought, let's show you something that I want to try. So it was something that I did in a previous track where all I did was I took these Bansuri flutes and all I did was shove them through a Valhalla Supermassive. So I like using the Hydra Harp. It's one of their presets. Usually I design all my stuff, but I think I was in a rush that time, and it just worked so well. It's a very dark and warm reverb that lasts a long, long time. So this is the Bansuri flute without the Supermassive. Nice and soft. Now this is it with the Supermassive. It's like a 10-second reverb afterwards. What I've done is it's going to be my backing. It's going to provide like an undercoat of warmth to the rest of the track. And if I export it and then bring it in, now it's cut off at the end, but it's going to have a fade out there. That's all right. So if we now listen to it, it has a lovely sound that everything else can fit on top. Now the thing with the Bansuri flutes is, and I'll go through the mixing process now. So first, the kalimba, I've made two types of effects buses. Okay, I've got a plate reverb bus, which is mostly used by the kalimba, and I've got a whole reverb bus, which is a general long-tailed stadium cathedral style sound, which is for the piano and the marimba. The Bansuri doesn't work that well. It just adds too much mud to the mix because it's already quite a soft sound. So the kalimba, this is the kalimba before. Very, very dry. The delay just sort of carries the notes across. Because what I'm going for is kind of an icy feel. Now, once this plate reverb's in, you can hear the ice, that sound of ice that I was going for. So that's our ice sound. Now, if we go to the piano, this is the piano before. A little bit of delay. And then a whole verb. In fact, this peak up here is a bit too prominent. It's going to clash with the plate verb. So now we place the Bansuri fog, that's what I've called it, over the back of the Bansuris. Now, one thing I'm going to do to clear up the mix, first thing I want to do actually, just like that. Then shove on a compressor. And I'm going to sidechain it to the Bansuri flutes. Forgot to turn on the bloody sidechain. The amount of times I do stuff like this where I'll go through the whole of my mix and I'm like, why isn't that working? And it's just something as simple as, I didn't turn it on. Now that's coming through. Now here's a reason. Why is that not now coming through? It's not even coming up in here. Ah, see? Okay, so I loaded in a send beforehand on this to try the whole reverb. Didn't like it because I turned it all the way down to 0, and so therefore it didn't actually work. Now, does this correspond to in here? Yes, it does. There we go. Okay. So, now we can actually edit this. Now this has to just almost tickle the compressor. I don't want a high ratio. You'll hear what happens when I turn on a high ratio. It's too much. I find with these sorts of techniques, a good way to do about it is a light ratio, but a heavy threshold. Now let's find that fog. I think that's it. So if we now listen to what it sounds like with and without, this is without the fog. So that's kind of what I wanted to go through. That's kind of how I work. And I think that calls it. So let's have a listen to the track as it now stands.